This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Cubs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. My name is Joe George. Follow me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. That's a frustrating series for the Cubs in a lot of different ways, from the umpires to the missed opportunities, the close calls that were a lot of great plays by the Tigers outfielders in this series. And just none of it went the Cubs' way when they needed it in this one. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Right now, you can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So we'll talk about the umps in this game, what happened with Nico and Counsell, questionable calls on the field that were not overturned, maybe a questionable send. I know I got at least one tweet on that. I'm curious what people's thoughts are. And just the fact that, look, the reality is the Cubs had their chances in this series, and they didn't get it done. That is the reality of it, okay? The better team in this series was the Detroit Tigers. The Cubs had lots of opportunities in Friday's game and in today's game to get the win. They didn't get it done. You look again through what happened in this game, eerily similar in a lot of ways to Friday. You look at the top of the fourth inning. Jack Flaherty was nasty through the first three innings. And then all of a sudden, Ian Happ, walk. Kyle Tucker, walk. You got first and second with no outs in a game in which you're only down by 2 runs. Seiya Suzuki strikes out. Crow-Armstrong gets a double. And then here's the play at the plate. Ian Happ slides in face first. He's ruled out on the field. Now, look, I'll be honest. I thought he was safe. To me, it looked like the tag got him in the chest. Obviously, didn't think it was interference or anything like that. I know that was part of the challenge. I thought Ian Happ was safe. But they did the call stands, which means they couldn't prove that the call was correct, but they couldn't also prove that the call was incorrect. So I thought Ian Happ was safe, but he's not. And you know what? Honestly, it shouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You only lost this game 4-0. You had opportunities. So first and second with no outs turns to second and third with 2 outs. Carson Kelly comes up, who has been on the struggle bus. He walks. You've got bases loaded with 2 outs, and then there's a line drive to Meadows, who nearly overruns it and has to jump up and make the catch in center field. But that's it for the Cubs. So they have the opportunity there with runners on first and second, with runners on second and third, with bases loaded, and they could not get anything done in that inning. That, to me, is going to be one of the turning points of today's game, but it's not the only one, right, either. So it's still 2-0, back into the top of the fifth. Dansby Swanson, leadoff double. We're going to talk more about Nico and Counsell here, but this is where Nico Hoerner is called out on a terrible call. It's terrible. Everyone knows it's terrible. The umpires in all 3 games this series were largely bad, okay? They were bad for the Cubs. They were bad for the Tigers. This one is a clear miss. My issue here is not necessarily the call. It's the ejection. It's one of the softest ejections I've ever seen in baseball. Nico Hoerner, you can tell, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't cuss at him. It doesn't look like, but even if he did, who cares? Be a grown man and take it. Instead, he throws out Nico immediately in an absolutely disgusting call to make that decision. Counsell comes out there. He fights for his guy. He gets ejected too. Not that either of those things are the reason why you lost this game. Frankly, more of it, I look back to, again, the Ian Happ call at home plate. If I was going to pin which umpire mistake is worse, it's clearly the Ian Happ play where, again, I think he was safe on the play. And if he was ruled safe, they don't overturn that the other way. They don't then call him out on the replay because since they said call stands, there was nothing clear and evident about which way it was going to go. But Nico gets tossed, so you got runner on second base, and then again, you do nothing with it. So it's still 2-0. You've had 2 opportunities to get guys in. Runners on second and third, first and second, bases loaded, and a guy on second, and the lineup doesn't get it done in either the 4th or the 5th inning. Then in the bottom of the 5th, Cade Horton gives up 2 more runs, so it's 4-0 there. And again, back to the 7th inning. The Cubs have opportunities. They're getting guys on base, but they're not getting guys home in this series. Back-to-back singles, first and second, with 2 outs there in the top of the 7th. Brujan, who's in for Nico Hoerner. This is where the ejection comes into play a little bit, right? Nico's one of the best baseball players right now this season, according to batting average, with runners in scoring position. So he's not on the field. So instead, it's Brujan who flies out, and Matt Shaw flies out as well to right field. And that's it. And that's the ball game there for the Cubs in the top of the 7th. So they had 3 opportunities to score, and they just didn't get it done. And look, I agree and disagree with the YouTube chat. Some very negative, some very positive is the best way to put it. I do think in large part this season, the Cubs have struggled against the elite pitching. Now, they've gotten close against a lot of them, and that's what this series to me really represents and why you lost, is that you were close against Skubal, you were close against Flaherty, and they just didn't get it done. They did not have guys come up, and they missed the timely hitting that they have had so many times in this series and this season so far. So to me, this series, when you look at it, it's a letdown from your lineup. It is your players, whether it's your best players, your middle lineup, the bottom of the order, like they just didn't come through when they needed it. And that's why, to me, the Cubs lost this series. It's not about the umpires, even though they are awful in this series. There's no question about that. You cannot lose the series, though, because of umpires. They are just not the only thing that goes wrong. Like Cade Horton today was fine. Like he has been, I think, kind of what you expect as a rookie pitcher. I mean, he had a ton of strikeouts in this game, gives up, runs early. That to me is the one thing with Cade that I am, I think we need to keep an eye on. It's hard to say that you have, 3 guys that you need an opener for, but Cade is giving up 6 earned runs in the first inning. I think it's the first 2 innings, pretty much every time or total so far. So when he does usually get hit, it's early in games. And then he rebounds a little bit, and today gives up 2 more runs. But, you can't sit up here and complain about a starting pitcher giving up 4 runs to the 5th best offense in baseball. You just can't. It's the lineup that just didn't get it done. And they dropped the ball in this series. They absolutely dropped it. I do agree with Jeremy here. Pitch selection was tough, though. Yeah, there is. There were some decisions there from Kelly and Cade that were not great in this game that led to some of the Tigers' runs as well in this one. So, look, overall, it's just frustrating. This is a frustrating series, and the Cubs need a little bit more juice. I think we've all known that. I don't think anyone should come away from this series surprised by anything. This is a really good baseball team. You're facing the best baseball team in the American League right now, arguably one of the best baseball teams in all of baseball. And you didn't have enough in this series to get it done versus the Tigers. You need Shota to come back, who threw a bullpen on Saturday. Will pitch in an ACL game on Monday, go 2 innings, about 40 pitches. So he's a couple weeks away. Porter Hodge is on his way back as well. But you still need to acquire a starting pitcher for sure. Not that it was the pitching's fault that you lost the series. It really was the exact opposite. It was your lineup that you can't really add to this season. That's the thing, is there are no guys to add. So I don't think that there is, a panic button that needs to be hit after this series loss. It's frustrating. You got a bunch of good teams coming up to face. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies, I do not put in that category right now. They've lost 3 straight series, regardless of their outcome versus the Pirates on Sunday. They've lost 3 straight series, including a series loss to the Pirates. The Philadelphia Phillies are gettable right now. You got to get back on track in this next stretch. We'll take a break. We'll talk more about what's ahead, what happened in this series, plus your questions and comments live here on YouTube. Plus, you hit me up on social media at Joe George Radio, any platform, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and shoot me your questions, and we will get to those as well. So take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the Locked On Cubs postcast. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving is 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keeping you feeling fuller longer. To me, the protein's been a huge part of why I've switched to Wonderful Pistachios, not just also the no-shell variety makes it a lot easier in our house, not having to make a mistake, but trying to add protein to your diet, and you can easily track it with something like Wonderful Pistachios. Get snackin', get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Today's show is also brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guaranteed that takes the worry out of buying. I use Gametime for when I go to games. I'm looking forward to see the Cubbies come here to Houston, where I live right now, and play against the Astros here at the end of the month. I've used Gametime to buy my tickets for 2 of the 3 games in that series. I'm going to be going to 2 of those games, and I use Gametime to get them. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, if you got questions or comments, more than welcome to drop them live here in the chat on YouTube, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. All right, a couple other things before we talk about the Phillies series again that's coming up here. Real quick on one other note from today's game and this series. Some lack of production, I think you have to point to for this series loss overall from the top of the lineup. And honestly, not to be like negative about a win, the Cubs only had, 7 hits in Saturday's game, and 5 of them were home runs. So this series was very feast or famine. It was either a home run or nothing. And that's what the Cubs did in this series. So that's the biggest takeaway from this series, is that the Tigers, in large part, they shut you down. You only scored 7 runs in 3 games, and most of that came from all home runs on Saturday. The small ball identity that is so often there with the Cubs, they just did not have in this series. Again, they had the position to. They had guys on base. They were doing half the job. They just weren't completing it, and that's what they did not do in this game. Now, this is where I think some of the people are off, but this comment is fair, okay? The Cubs are not on the elite tier yet. That I agree with. I think they're very good. They are missing a couple things right now. Now, part of it is they're not all going at the same time. The catcher position that was so promising has become a little bit of a detriment to this offense. I think a little bit is a nice way to put it. But Carson Kelly's really slowed down. And Miguel Amaya is going to have the opportunity when he gets healthy, I think, to win this job on a daily basis. That, to me, is what you need to see from the Cubs lineup going forward. Like, that to me is the pivotal point of where the Cubs offense can really go to that elite level that they were at earlier on in the season. They're still a very good offense, just had a bad series. But the catcher position is one where it kind of feels like, to me, or we should be talking about it like we were talking about third base earlier this season, where you're just not getting that production that you had early on that was at an extreme level. So this series is a lot of missed opportunities, some good pitching, but not great pitching. But overall, they did a really good job against the Tigers. Like, I don't want that to be totally dismissed either. Even Cade Horton in this game, who has a bunch of strikeouts, he also had a chance to let this game totally get away from him. But he did do a solid job. Like, if you look at the bottom of the first here, he gives up a single and a walk, so you got first and second with no outs. He gets the next 2 guys. Yes, Spencer Torkelson comes up and gets a 2 RBI double. It's 2-0, but he doesn't let it unravel in the way that some young rookie pitchers would allow it to. Again, the bottom of the third, back-to-back singles. Suzuki makes a tough play in left field. I know he doesn't play out there a lot, but by throwing it to third allows it actually to be second and third with 2 outs instead of first and third. But Cade Horton gets the fly out, and the inning is over. So I think for Cade, like that's the positive. That's the biggest positive from this game is that Cade Horton got the strikeouts, got the swing and miss, some tough pitch selection, but also had the opportunity to give up some major damage in this game, and for the most part, got out of it without allowing that to happen. So that's really the only, to me, the positive from this game. The rest of it, it's just frustrating. That's all it is. It's a frustrating loss. It's a frustrating series. There's no other way to put it. And I think it always makes it a little bit worse when you lose a series and you feel like the umpires cost you a couple opportunities, but you also cost yourselves, not just the players from sending Pete Crow-Armstrong in game 1. I don't think it was a mistake to send Ian Happ in this one. I'm not going to blame the third base coach for that mistake as well, again, mainly because I think Ian Happ was safe. So I'm not going to look at anyone saying, hey, that's an issue. Ramon says here in the chat, love seeing Counsell standing up for his players. Yeah, I know that's one for me that it's a hot debated topic amongst all baseball fans across the country, is when players get, as wanting your umpire and your manager get thrown out more and kind of back the players. He did today. Honestly, kind of a soft ejection for him as well. It looks like all he told the umpire was, you need to be better, which is fair because they were not good. So it's not like he was, going full Lupinella on him or anything like that. But we see Craig Counsell get thrown out in this game today. And look, I still think there's a very good chance that this is not the last time we see the Cubs play in Detroit this year. That would mean late October, we'd be seeing them as well. A lot of work to do to get there, I think, for both sides. But the Cubs, they lose the series. It's frustrating. There's no other way to put it. That will do it for this episode of the Locked on Cubs postcast. Lot of baseball games coming up here for the Cubbies. Not a lot of days off between now and the All-Star break. I think it's 3 days between now and the All-Star break. So we'll be back tomorrow here reacting to Game 1 of the Cubs and the Phillies series. So thanks for watching. You find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. We'll be back tomorrow with you talking all things Cubs baseball, hopefully after a W. Enjoy your Sunday. Talk to you then.